Hello everyone, nice to see so many students in today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm broadcasting to you from Budapest, Hungary, Central Europe for this live IELTS session on September 26th. We're beginning our week of live broadcasts. Today we're going to be looking at IELTS reading and vocabulary, taking a sample passage from one of our exams. Hi Amia, hi Deepa. Hi Prabjot Kaur, good to see you in class. As usual, our materials do come from our websites for academic English. Please join us at aehelp.com. I'll put that up here so you can see it at any time in the lesson. And if you're learning for general IELTS, please visit us at gieltshelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com. On both these sites, we have 6 original practice exams, a fully interactive course, and well over 100 hours of video lessons, high definition pre-recorded lessons, of course, and a lot of, or actually all of these live classes eventually end up on our websites as well in a nicely organized, structured fashion, so you can catch up and see them there to help improve your band scores. Hi Benjamin, hi Roshan, hi Jeffrey. Yes, Jeffrey, I got a haircut just last week, so thanks for noticing that. All right, and again, our app for academic IELTS is available now on both Google Play and iTunes, so look for our logo, look for Academic IELTS Help. You can download it there and make use of that. There's some free materials that you can use, also some in-app purchases. If you have questions, comments, concerns about our products or about IELTS, you can always send me an email. My name, Adrian at aehelp.com. You can also get Skype practice interview through our websites as well as writing and editing services. Now, our live classes are according to Central European time. They generally go from Wednesday to Sunday. Today we're doing reading strategies. Tomorrow we'll have a grammar lesson. We'll look at those 6 additional rules for how to use commas in your writing task 1 and 2. By the way, good job students who sent your task 2 responses. I noticed that a lot of you really learned effective ways to use commas in your writing, and I could definitely see at least a half band improvement for a lot of you just by using commas more effectively when you're writing in English. So that was great. We'll look at a writing task 2 on the 28th, and then we'll do some speaking on the 29th. We'll have a members class on the 30th. Again, those students who become our channel members, you get a lot of perks. You get access to the exams that we use, and you get to request these classes, and we'll have some more perks coming for you in the near future as well. All right, so first things first, today's lesson, learning vocabulary in the IELTS reading passage. Step number 1, when you're doing your IELTS reading at home and you're learning vocabulary that you come across in your reading, this is a step-by-step method to really effectively improve this learning process. Just give me a moment, I'll get you back on screen here. Meanwhile, you can see my daughter there for a moment. She's a little bit older now, not much, a little bit. All right. Just give me a moment here. I'm trying to solve this issue as well with the camera cutting out, but it's a mystery so far, so hopefully I'll get to the bottom of it soon. All right, so again, the first step is just read the passage. Don't worry too much about the vocabulary the first time you read. Definitely don't worry about questions and answers. It's important not to combine too much learning or too many different kinds of learning in one study session to be effective at home. So don't try to learn vocabulary in an IELTS passage at the same time as you're trying to answer questions and use answer strategies. Separate out these skills, especially in your earlier studies. You can start to combine them later on, but in the beginning, definitely separate your targets and make sure to just focus on one. So if you're learning vocabulary, you're improving your comprehension, then focus on that. Don't focus on combining other strategies. So step number 1, again, is to read the passage. We're going to do that now. We'll use our materials from our first exam passage, or first exam book, first exam passage number 2. Okay, so for those of you who have our books, you can find that on page 30. I'm just going to log into our academic website so we can access the audio material for this reading. Again, with our websites and our materials, you can find the audio for the reading passages to help you improve, okay? So let me see if I can change my password here just the other day, so just give me a second here. Thankfully I remembered it. Okay, and I don't have the full version here, so let me just log into an administrative account. Again, bear with me a little bit here as I set this up. All right, here we go. This will work for us now. And so when you log into your student account, again, if you're new to the website, you can try it for free by clicking the green button. We're sure you'll like it. And then you can click on that red big button to purchase our course. Again, it's worthwhile investing a little bit of money to save a lot on the exam, not have to pay that $300 again to sit a second time, plus save yourself valuable time. Then you can log in at the top there. So we're going to enter the My Student account so we can access our CDs. This is the tab here, IELTS Audio CDs. So we're going to go there. And this will be passage number 2. So everybody get ready to read. Again, the focus here is just read. Try to understand as much of the passage as possible. Don't worry about anything else, okay? We're going to target the vocabulary afterwards. So here we go.
Continental drift and plate. Looking at a map of the world, Abraham Ortelia in 1596 put forward for the first time the idea that at one period the continents were in different places. It would take over 300 years for the theory to be fully developed, and 50 years after that for the mechanism of the phenomena to be discovered. It was not until 1915 that German geologist Alfred Wegener proposed the continental drift theory, which states that the Earth's crust is made up of many sections that float slowly over the molten mantle and core of the Earth. Wegener argued that in the past the continents were all stuck together. He called this supercontinent Pangaea, which is Greek for all Earth. Wegener hypothesized that approximately 200 million years ago this supercontinent began to break up, and the pieces began to move away from each other. Initially, Pangaea was divided into 2 parts, named Laurasia and Gondwana. Laurasia consisted of what is today North America, Asia and Europe, whilst Gondwana was modern-day South America and Australia. These supercontinents eventually split apart further, resulting in today's continental configuration. It is interesting to note that today's continental alignment is just that. Millions of years in the future, the Earth's continents will appear very different. Given enough time, it is possible that the Earth's land masses will return to a Pangaea-like unified state. The evidence for continental drift is plentiful. The most common evidence is the discovery of the same type of dinosaurs in extremely different locations. The same type of dinosaur fossil will be found in northeastern parts of South America, as well as northwestern parts of Africa. The logical explanation for phenomena such as this is that at one time, these parts of the world were not only connected, but adjacent. The evidence for continental drift was discovered long before an explanation for it was found. It was during the 1960s that the theory of plate tectonics was developed. This new theory explained fully the nature of the Earth's crust, that it was broken up into many pieces that tended to smack into each other and pull apart from each other. In extreme cases, such as the Indian subcontinent, A plate's movement can be so severe that it causes massive mountains to be formed when the plates hit another. This is precisely what has happened over the past millions of years, when the Indian plate colliding with the Eurasian plate, in the process creating the Himalayas, which include the tallest mountain on Earth, Mount Everest. Plate tectonics are not only responsible for mountains and the movement of the continents, they are also responsible for volcanoes. Volcanoes usually result from one of the two plate configurations. They form in places where the plates are colliding, or where the plates are pulling apart. In the first case, the plates come together pushing against each other, causing friction and heat, which allows some of the crust material to melt, resulting in liquid magma. Because magma is less dense than the surrounding rock, it ends up rising to the surface, where it becomes a volcano. An example of this volcano for centuries today. This slip is what results in a sudden catastrophic earthquake. If this slip occurs in the ocean, underneath the Earth's surface, it can cause a massive tidal wave known as a tsunami. When?
All right, so that should be your first step, just reading the passage nice and smooth. If you're able to read at that speed as that British woman, great. If you're a little bit slower, 15, 20, 25%, it's not a big deal. That's still fast enough to get a high band score on IELTS. All right. So, then when you read this passage, you should stop for a moment and think about, okay, what did I understand from this, regardless of vocabulary that's new and that you don't know or you're not familiar with. So you should think about, okay, what did I understand? So what was this passage about, okay? And clearly, hopefully you understood that this passage is about plate tectonics, okay? So the movement of the continental plates that make up the crust of the Earth. It's about when this theory was discovered, how it works, what are the examples around the world that we can see that backs up plate tectonics, and some of the natural phenomena that we experience as humans, such as earthquakes and volcanoes that are a consequence of such plate tectonics. So hopefully you understood more or less that much information, even if you did not understand all of the words in the passage. Okay, so then what is your second step? Okay, and again, this is just purely focusing on vocabulary. I will show you the passage questions at the end of the lesson, so you can go through it again and then focus on the questions afterwards. But right now, we're just looking at how can we improve learning vocabulary from these kinds of passages in an effective way. Okay, as many of you know, when you're learning for IELTS, time is often not on your side. You have a pressure to do the IELTS in a short amount of time. So it's good to study a lot, but success on IELTS is not just about studying hard or studying many hours each day. It's about effective study. So it's important that you study effectively and maximize your time. All right, you've read the passage, you've thought about the passage, got as much as you can about the meaning, the message. Now go back and look at each paragraph separately and underline new words, especially words that you feel could be seen in other passages as well. So let's take a peek at the passage one more time. Let's go back to the beginning. And let's read this first paragraph, and then we'll pull a couple of vocabulary here to learn and practice. So just read with me. When looking at a map of the world, it is natural to notice that Africa and South America seem to be able to fit together as if they are two parts of a former whole. It was this insight which led Flemish cartographer Abraham Ortelius in 1596 to put forward for the first time the idea that at one period the continents were in different places than they are today. It would take over 300 years for the theory to be fully developed, and 50 years after that for the mechanism of the phenomenon to be discovered. Okay, so students, viewers, what are some new words here for you? So which words here are words that you feel, okay, that's new for me, or I'm not too familiar with that word, and I have a feeling that that's a word that I might see in another passage as well. So give me a couple of words to underline here so that we can target those for vocabulary learning. Okay? Chance. Don't be shy, express yourself. So Mustafa says, well, absolutely, I agree with you. That's definitely something, especially in the academic IELTS, that you could easily see in other passages. Rashni, cartographer is okay. A cartographer is a map maker. Cartographer is probably not something that you would likely see in a lot of other IELTS passages. You never know, but unlikely. Anupa says the word insight. Okay, so there we have the word insight. All right, good for you. So insight, definitely a good word to know for your everyday English. Phenomenon, another great word to know. Now, if you know those two words and you have some high-level vocabulary, then definitely cartographer. But again, map maker. Okay, so that's the special word for somebody who makes maps or maps geography. It's not something that you'd very likely see any IELTS. These two words are, okay? So let's begin with those. Right. Now, the next these new words is to write out the definition. All right, so let's do that now. So see here, step 3, write the definition for this new vocabulary. All right, so again, I'll ask your assistance here. You can test your knowledge here. What is the definition of insight, and what is the definition of phenomenon? I can see a couple of you are saying that the sound is breaking up a bit, and I see that some of you are saying that, so I don't know, on my end it seems okay. I'll just check the battery in my mic here. Yeah, it's good on my side. So I'm not sure if it's something to do with the stream. Let me try to turn off the mic and turn it on again. Okay, oh, maybe okay. If the sound keeps giving you trouble, just let me know. Here, I'll turn it off and turn it on in a moment. All right. So, can everybody hear me a little bit better now? I just reset the mic, so hopefully that's good. Okay, it looks like for most of you it's good. So if it's not good for some of you, it's probably the stream on your end, okay? I've done everything more or less on my end. All right, let's get back to target here. So again, let's write out the definitions for these words. So students, help me out here. What is the definition of insight? And what is the definition for phenomenon? Okay, give me these definitions. Also give me the word form. In this case, you should know that it's used as a noun. Same with this one. So these are nouns. What is the meaning of insight? So Amjad says a phenomenon means something that's incredible. Yes, somewhat. It's not necessarily incredible. It can be something simple. Nayan's definition is a little bit better there. A phenomenon is some sort of an event. Often it refers to an unexplained event. So it often refers to an unexplained event that is of interest. Okay, it's a good idea to have full definition so you have a very clear understanding of the word. The English dictionary is very, very big. There are over 1.6 million words now in English. And I believe there's 10 new words in English added daily. Because it is a global language, it's the language of new technology, new scientific advancements. So it's a huge language, and we have a lot of words for similar ideas. So it's important to get the full definition so that you can see the slight differences between meanings. So what's the difference between phenomenon and the word event? Okay, event is more commonplace, often understood. Phenomenon is often not understood. Okay. Patel says insight means awareness related to something. Yes, absolutely. Coming from the word sight, right, to see and see into something. So if you think about that, it means an accurate understanding, according to Sonia. That's a good definition as well. Yes, it's an understanding of a piece of knowledge or information. So it's a realization of a piece of information, or you can think about it as well as an observation and understanding of something or of a situation. Okay, so write it out. Those are some good definitions. Okay, so you have the definitions now for these two words. Of course, once you get rolling with this and as you're doing this at home, you'll become much, much faster. If you need a little bit of help there, use a dictionary. Often there's digital ones available to you. But this is your step number 3. So you've read the passage, now you've gone back, you've read the paragraph, you've underlined the words that you feel are new and useful, and you've given some clear definitions. Identify the different word forms as well. And then your step 4 is to write an example sentence. And I think some of our students that watch these classes regularly will realize that this is connecting previous lessons where we talked about vocabulary learning, but here we're using those lessons specifically for reading passage. So when you write an example, there are some very, very important steps that you need to take in order to make sure that you write an effective example that you can easily remember, so that you can not only understand the word the next time you read it or hear it, but you can also use the word in your own speaking or writing. Okay? So simple sentences are not a good way. General sentences are not a good way. John ate an apple is not a good way to learn the word apple. Okay? So this is what you need to do in this case. Firstly, the sentence needs to be relevant to the reading passage. So when you create an example sentence, when you're doing this, of course you should be doing all of this in one session. then create an example sentence that's related to the reading passage. So in our case, it's continental drift and plate tectonics. So your example should also be something about continental drift and plate tectonics. So keep focusing on the same topic as the passage. The second important point is that your sentence must be complex or compound. It means don't write just a simple sentence like, there are interesting phenomenon about plate tectonics. It's not good enough. There needs to be more. It needs to be complex. So you need to continue with because. So there are some interesting phenomenon related to plate tectonics because it explains the movement of continents on the Earth or something like that. So we'll get into a better example, but it has to be complex, has to be compound. Now, C is also very important. The human brain loves to participate. We're egocentric. Humans, as humans, we love ourselves. We love being human. We love being individuals. So the brain remembers information much better when it's a participant, so when it includes you. Okay? So a better sentence is, I have a theory about plate tectonics, which explains the phenomenon of volcanoes. Okay, that's getting into a much, much better example sentence that you will only need to write down once, review once or twice, and then you can use the word effectively. And try to make the sentence interesting, okay? The human brain remembers information it finds interesting 1,000 times better than information which is mundane, meaning boring. So definitely make your example as interesting as possible. So here, I'll give you the first sentence, example sentence, relating to this passage using the word insight. And I challenge you to do the same. So while I write my example sentence, do the same thing. So write an example with the word insight that includes you, it's interesting, it's complex, compound, and it's related to the topic of the passage, okay? I'll do the same. So I had a very interesting insight into using the energy of volcanic eruptions to power my electric car because I don't like using the chargers at gas stations. Okay, and don't be shy to review, revise your sentence, make it better, especially in the beginning as you're developing or creative. So here's my sentence. I had a very interesting insight into using the energy of volcanic eruptions to power my electric car because I don't like using the chargers at gas stations. It's a really strange sentence. It's interesting. It's a complex sentence. It includes me. And of course, it has the word insight, which remember, okay? It's a good idea to underline, circle, or write the word that you're learning in a different color so that it's very clear when you review your notes later. Okay, Anoop says, I have been observing the insight the mountains since I was born. Okay, Anoop, that's not good because the word observe and insight are basically synonymous. So you don't want to use them together, okay? And the sentence doesn't make sense. So try that again. So insight means that you're learning something. You've gained a piece of information, okay? Jubilant James says, I have an insight that continental drift theory, which was hypothesized by our team, clearly defines the phenomenon of volcanoes, earthquakes, and tsunamis. Jubilant James, that's great. I like it. It's complex. It makes sense. However, I don't think it's super interesting. If it's interesting for you, great. But try to make it more interesting in some way. Try to make it strange, funny, weird, sad. Try to make it elicit more emotions, okay? If it elicits emotions for you for some reason, then sure, it works. If not, then change it up a bit. So revise it a little bit. And by revising it, you're learning the vocabulary as well. Okay, so waiting for more examples. Give it your best shot. Meanwhile, let's do another one with the word phenomenon. Okay, so here is my example sentence with phenomenon. Whenever I feel the earth move under my feet, it is likely a phenomenon of plate tectonics or too many drinks with my friends the night before. Okay? So again, don't be shy. These are your personal notes. You can express yourself. Of vocabulary and a little vocabulary book. I definitely recommend doing this with pencil and paper or pen and paper and not on your phone or your computer, just because with the paper and pencil, it's more personal and it's more accessible, so you can review it more frequently. You can create flashcards with this type of practice as well. So as one of the students in a previous class cleverly suggested, can I have some flashcards, put the new word from the passage on one side of the flashcard, and then on the other side of the flashcard I can write my interesting, unique sentence. Okay? Naveen, I saw your example there, but it left the chat a little bit quickly, so just type it in again and I'll have a look at that, okay? Anupa says, the phenomenon of recycling an egg is seen in an increasing order. I'm a little bit confused by what you're expressing there, Anupa, but it definitely sounds interesting. Make it a little bit more complex and try to connect it to the topic of the reading passage, okay? Mustafa says, I can't understand some phenomenon of psychology because scientists of psychology are crazy. Mustafa, again, it's a good example for learning the word phenomenon, but when you're targeting a reading passage, again, stay with the same topic of the reading passage. So in this case, it has to be plate tectonics, continental drift, something about the Himalayas, or something that's connected or relevant to this reading. Kazar says, phenomenon such as volcanoes give me an insight into how powerful Mother Nature is, and at times I just feel like hiding under my bed and pretending that nothing bad will happen. Kasra, that was a very nice example. You did a really good job of combining both of those new words into one example sentence, and that can be a further step, so that's great. Make it a little bit more complex or compound. So add a little bit more to your sentence to make it more memorable so that you can use it. Okay? But those are some really good example sentences, students, so keep at it. All right. Do one more of these. So let's take a look at the second paragraph in the reading. We'll pull a couple more words, and then you'll have a chance to practice this a little bit more today. So now let's read paragraph B. I'll just get you back on screen here. Just give me one quick second. The phenomenon of the camera turning off is very strange for me, and I have absolutely no insight into why this is happening. If anybody else has some insight into it, please do let me know, because it's a strange mystery for me. So there's using those words in that context. All right, and absolutely use your new vocabulary every time you get a chance, okay? And you're speaking and writing especially. If you don't use it, you lose it. All right? Let's read paragraph B. Here we go. It was not until 1915 that German geologist Alfred Wegener proposed a continental drift theory, which states that float slowly over the molten and of the Earth. Wegener argued that in the past the continents were all stuck together. He called the continent Pangaea, which is Greek for all Earth. Wegener hypothesized that approximately 200 million years ago, this continent began to break up and the pieces began to move away from each other. Okay, do you see any new that you feel might appear in some other reading passages as well? While you give me those words, I'll switch up the battery in my mic remote and we'll see if that solves the situation. Could be a power issue. Okay, so hypothesis is a good one, absolutely. Shanu says hypothesized, which is the actual word form. Approximately, Mustafa, is a very, very important word, so that's a good one. All right. I've just put some fresh batteries in here, so hopefully that might be the root cause of the sound issue. Let's see. Greek, that's the name of a country, or sorry, the name of a group of people or culture. The country is Greece in English, and the language and the people are Greek, okay? All right, I see some words. So let's go with some of these. Proposed was one that a few of you just mentioned. Sections. One of you said molten mantle. Mantle is specific to the earth. Okay. However, the word molten is not. Molten might be a good word to know. Well, okay. Hypothesis or hypothesized is a good word to know for university and for other reading passages as well. And one of you said approximately, which is definitely a must-know. That's a very useful word for task 1 essay writing as well. So we have 4 words there: proposed, molten, hypothesized, and approximately. So write them out. Definitions. Okay, so here we go. That's your first step. Molten, propose, and approximately. Okay, so give them definitions. Hypothesize is a verb, of course. You can see it there. What does it mean? So give me some definitions here, students. What does the word hypothesize actually mean? So give me the definitions for any one of them here, and I'll let you know if you're on the right track. So Patel says hypothesizing means speculation. It's an educated guess, is what Jeffrey says. Those are close to the meaning. They're not quite accurate. There's a little bit more to it than that. A hypothesis is very important for scientists. Okay, and there's a plural form of the word, hypotheses. That's the noun verb. Okay, so you're saying that the verb means to take an educated guess. Hypothesize means to pose a scientific explanation. Okay, so that's probably the best definition of hypothesize I can come up with. It means to propose a scientific explanation for a theory or for some phenomenon. Okay, and it's absolutely science-based. So there's logic to it, there's rationale to it. Anybody know the meaning of molten? What does molten mean? What's the definition of that? Molten is usually an adjective. Lava, you're asking me, Morgan, is molten lava. Liquid rock is lava, and it is molten rock. So, absolutely. That will give you a hint about the definition as well. Okay. Yeah, so Jignesh says it's the liquid state of materials with a high melting point. Yes, absolutely. And if you're students of physics, you might know this. So molten means that it's soft or that it's liquid. So it's the soft or liquid state of materials with a high melting point. Very good for that student for figuring that out. Maybe you're a student or a chemistry student. So molten metal, for example, is liquid metal. So if we heat metal, gold or steel, to a very high temperature, it becomes liquid. So we don't say it's liquid metal. We usually say it's molten metal, okay, or molten rock or molten glass. What's the definition of propose? Propose is a verb, and probably many of you know that it means to suggest an idea, to offer an idea. Okay? Used very frequently in business. You give a proposal, the noun form of the word. A man will propose to a woman to ask for her hand in marriage because the man is giving an offer to the woman to become a life partner. So that's the meaning of propose, okay? So propose is to offer an idea or offer a situation to someone or to a group of people. And approximately is a very important word. What's the... That's right, Shabin. Propose means to recommend an idea or to suggest an idea. Okay? Naveen says approximately means close to the exact figure or number. Yeah, it's a rough estimate is another way to think about it. Okay, and it can be close to the exact number or idea as well. Approximately what time will you be here? I will be at your house approximately at 5 o'clock. It means it could be a little bit before, it could be a little bit after, but sometime near 5 o'clock. In Canada, if you say to somebody, I'll be at your place approximately 5 o'clock, it generally means 10, 15 minutes before or after. If you're going to be 30 minutes late, you should probably not say approximately 5 o'clock, okay? So approximately is a very good word to know for IELTS, definitely, and to use for when you're defining graphs and charts. All right. So now let's create some solid examples. Again, just a reminder, stay with the same topic as the passage, include yourself, make it interesting, make it complex and compound. Okay, students, try a sentence with hypothesize. Okay, so think about something you hypothesize or someone hypothesizes that influences you. It's somehow related to the information in this passage, and it is interesting. I'll write up an example while you think about yours. You can put it in the chat, and I'll review and let you know if you're on the right track. Okay? Morgan, yep, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, so be prepared for anything. Okay, so here is the example. Although some scientists hypothesize that tsunamis are a result of earthquakes, I believe that these giant waves happen because a team of blue whales play water polo in the ocean. Okay, so just using some creative imagination for my example, I'll read it again. Although some scientists hypothesize that tsunamis are a result of earthquakes, I believe that these giant waves happen because a team of blue whales play water polo in the ocean. All right, let's see what you've come up with. So Ruji Sambewa says, one of my friends hypothesized that smoking is related to cancer. It's not complex enough, Ruji. Make it a little bit more complex or compound. And again, when you're learning vocabulary from a specific passage, make sure to connect to that passage, okay? Shabin says, an unproven hypothesis of existence of things can be useful in order to understand why there is molten rock under our feet. I don't know, Shabin, I'm just adding something that's a little bit more interesting and relating to this passage, okay? Don't forget that. That's an important step. It'll help you understand the passage more. Naya Patel says, my best friend explained his hypothesis about lava which emerged during a volcanic explosion and streamed past his feet, something like that. But Naya, that's a good example and you're being relevant to the topic, so that's good. Rashni says, I prefer articles to read of scientific experiments which are based on the hypothesis of plate tectonics. Very good, Rashni. Just pay attention to my corrections there. That was good. James says, scientists hypothesized during earlier years that volcanic eruption will be continuous. It looked really good, Jubilant James. I couldn't catch the rest of it, but it looked good. Naveen says, scientists hypothesize that molten steel has a high melting point. However, I propose that there are metals which have melting points approximately 10 million degrees Celsius, much greater than that of steel. Okay, a couple of awkward things in there, Naveen. Maybe revise it, but you have the right idea. All right, Jeffrey says, my grandma has hypothesized continental drift 3 decades before Wegener was born, and she keeps all her research work in the basement of my home. Jeffrey, brilliant example, okay? It's funny, it's visual, it's related to the topic of the first 2 paragraphs very directly. Excellent job. That's exactly the type of example that will help you to learn that vocabulary very quickly and very effectively and be able to use it. When you create a sentence like that, your brain can very quickly reference and dig up that information. So that's what you're going for, okay? That's what you're going for. Avishek, I'm sorry if I missed your sentence. I tried to catch as many of these sentences as possible. If I miss it, don't worry about it. I'll get it next time, okay? All right, one more. Joseph Deepak says, although some scientists hypothesize the Big Bang is the starting point for creation, I feel it needs evidence to become a theory, and until then, I will continue to believe that plate tectonics is the origin of all life. Okay, so Joseph, if you add until then, I believe that plate tectonics is the origin of all life and the universe, you've related it much more closely to this topic, and it's pretty good, okay? It's pretty good. Again, the more interesting the sentences are, the more creative you are, the better your brain's going to learn words, and you don't have to do all this kind of crazy rote memory and repetition, all right? Very, very good. So, the 3 other words from this paragraph are molten, propose, and approximately. Some students are getting very clever and they're combining 2 new words into one example. That's okay. I don't suggest combining more than 2 in one example just because it becomes overwhelming and you'll forget all of them or some of them. So don't do that. I'm going to jump back to this passage here for those of you who want to come back to the YouTube channel and have a look at this reading passage again and actually read, learn the vocabulary, and then take one more step and answer the question. So the first question is list of headings. There you have the choices for each paragraph. Okay. Here are the questions. There's an example given for you for paragraph B. And then at the end of the passage, of course, you have some more questions. You have a labeling diagram one, no more than 2 words and or a number. So you have to label blank 35 and blank 36 here. Okay. Then you have another diagram for question 37. You get the information. And then 38 to 51, a flowchart type question where you write no more than 2 words and or a number. And you see here the questions. Now this is coming from our curriculum book, so there's extra questions here. You have also true, false, not given for this passage. Our curriculum exams are specially designed with additional questions to teach you in more detail for each one. So this is a true, false, not given. Again, you can come back to the video and take your time with this. So you'll see that this passage has more questions than the usual IELTS exam, just because it's showing you different question types within the same passage. Here's a complete each sentence with the correct ending, 46, 7, and 8. Here are the choices. And I believe that this is the last set here, 49 to 53. It's a fill-in-the-blanks one. So lots of different question types for you to test your understanding of this passage and strategies for these different types of questions. Okay? So then it follows with passage 3. Again, remember the goal of this lesson is not really these questions, but it's learning the vocabulary from the passage. Again, just a quick summary of the class. Follow these steps when you're learning vocabulary from IELTS reading passages. Firstly, just read the passage, okay? Try to understand it as much as possible. Don't break the passage into a million pieces by trying to learn the vocabulary right away. First, read the whole passage. Then after that, read a single paragraph, underline the new words. Once you have those new words, write out the definition as clearly as possible. Give the word form. And then in your vocabulary learning notebook with pencil and paper, write out an example sentence. Make sure it's relevant to the passage. Make sure it's complex, compound, includes you, someone you know, close to you, and make it interesting, okay? So that is a very effective way to improve your reading comprehension, to learn and add new words to your vocabulary base for your future success on IELTS. Use those words in your speaking and in your writing. Once you have a list of, let's say, 10 new words from a reading passage, it's a good idea to write a make-believe task 2 question that uses those new words. So right away, try to use those new words in your writing and then use them in your speaking as well. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, from our websites. Join us at aehelp.com if you're studying for academic IELTS, gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. Again, spend a couple dollars to save a lot of time and to save frustration and to save money so you don't have to sit that IELTS exam a second or third time, okay? There's not a good way to do that. If you've missed the class, yeah, you can absolutely watch it again on our channel. We will have it up for the next few days. And then, of course, eventually these videos go to our websites and you can find them there in our video archives. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. Firuza, Hardik, Rambari, Abhishek, Jubilant James, always very studious. Very good. Shanu, you're most welcome. It was great to see so many of you in class. Keep up the good work. You'll get there, and I will see you tomorrow for a grammar lesson about using commas in your writing. We have one lesson about that already on the channel. Make sure to see that. That's the first 6 comma rules. Tomorrow we'll look at the 6 other comma rules that are important in English literature. So have a great rest of your day. Until tomorrow, I bid you farewell. Sweet dreams if it's late in your country and you're getting ready for bed. Bye for now.